Yes, you can jump batteries if you let batteries go dead, but on average, you lose about 4 or 5% of the battery life on a battery that's really low, and that's also when you lose your alternator. The one thing that you need to do if you want to make a battery last longer is to give it some love and care, to give it some attention. Battery terminals are where I like to start. When battery terminals are connected for a long time, they get oxidation on them. And it makes it much more difficult for your alternator or your generator to keep a battery charged up if the terminals are oxidated. It also reduces the voltage that goes into the battery. So the first thing I want to show you is something that most people probably have seen before, and probably most of the car guys have used before, but it's something you should do regularly, and you want to keep your terminals clean. This terminal here will definitely not produce the quality that a terminal that's clean like this, and also you want to clean the inside. If you do that, let's say every 6 months or every year, right off the bat, you'll get your battery will last at least a year longer. Your alternator or your generator will work a lot less hard because we don't have that extra resistance that's sucking the power out of the battery and stuff. So second thing is, and especially if you're storing batteries for a long time, water level and the type of water to use. You don't just use tap water, you use distilled water, and you always want to try to keep the plates covered up with water. It's easy to take off caps. On maintenance-free batteries, most maintenance-free batteries have a label, but there are quite often caps underneath them. Now, they don't evaporate as quickly as maintenance batteries because maintenance batteries have bigger vents, but they still do evaporate. If you ever get to the point where you let a battery go, there is also premix, where they've taken the sulfuric acid and the water and they give you a premix. You can get it in any good auto parts place. And that might be something that you want to look at if you let batteries go low. Also, a hydrometer is a good tool to make sure that the specific gravity is correct. But that might be a little bit more than most customers want to do or that you want to do. Just keep the water level and use distilled water. That's the second thing. When you jump a car, you are usually jumping it and you're putting maybe 100, 150 amps into that battery when you're jumping it. And then it starts and your alternator's putting out 100 or 150 amps to try to keep the battery or try to get the battery charged up again. What's going on inside your battery is it is bubbling. And you used to be able to see this when you used to charge up batteries and you put a high current on them. And the whole battery's vibrating. And I got news for you. It's like a heart attack for a battery. So any of the lead acid based batteries, if there's an adage in the battery business, slow is always the way to go. Well, the reason slow is, or bringing a dead battery back slowly is, 1, you don't heat the battery up. 2, you don't gas out the electrolyte, which is what you're going to do when all those bubbles are happening. 3, you don't vibrate the plates of the battery. And so let me just talk about battery plates. If I had a brand new battery here and it was open and you saw the plates, they're very close together, and today they are very thin. They're designed that way. I think they're probably designed that way on purpose so they don't last a long time, but they certainly don't like you if you put a bunch of vibration on them because you're trying to charge them quickly. And like any other metal, if you let metal go like this over and over, what you end up with is it's going to break sooner or later, but you also end up with a higher resistance wherever those plates are vibrating at. So it shortens the life of a battery. So yes, you can jump batteries if you let batteries go dead, and you can get them to start again. You can get a car to start again, but on average, you lose about 4 or 5% of the battery life on a battery that's really low. And that's also when you lose your alternators. The most common way for an alternator to go bad isn't when you're just driving every day and it starts right up and the battery's full. It's when the alternator has to go to work at charging up a dead battery, because it gets hot too, because you're putting out the most amount of amps, and that's not good. When a normal battery gets jumped, it gases, it makes bubbles. That's how it gets rid of the extra energy. On an AGM battery, I don't care what brand it is, it can't bubble because it's got an absorbed glass mat, or it's got a gel, or it's got some sort of a substrate that doesn't let it bubble like a normal battery does. What it does instead is it gets hot in the middle first. So you're just a happy camper jumping this thing, and then your alternator comes on, and what you're doing to the dang battery on the inside is you're cooking it. Which I can guarantee you, if you cook a battery, you'll lose, again, 5 to 10% of a battery if it's totally dead after you've jumped it on these AGMs. And if you go out and spend this kind of money, you definitely want to keep the batteries charged up. When the battery's fully charged, the sulfur and the sulfuric acid is basically in the middle of the battery. It's in the liquid. As you discharge a battery, the sulfur moves over to the lead plates. So if you leave a battery dead, or if it goes dead, and all that sulfur's next to the lead, they like each other, and they become, or combine to become lead sulfate. And that's what kills 99% of the batteries. After a time, it clogs up your plates, or it falls down to the bottom of the battery and shorts out your plates. In either case, you're buying another battery. So if you keep it charged up all the time, and most of the sulfur atoms are in the middle, you get more life out of a battery. So that's the number 3 thing that you can do. If you're not driving a vehicle, then starting it regularly and driving it enough to get it fully charged is great. Starting something for 10 minutes is not the way to fully charge a battery. It won't. You don't know how long it's going to take. It depends on how low it is. So then we come into the tenders and the trickle chargers and the chargers. There are a variety of types of battery maintainers and chargers out there. Some of them automatic, some of them very inexpensive, some of them more expensive. Everybody's probably heard of a trickle charger or a tender. These are pulse chargers. While it's on the battery, it's trying to extend the life of the battery by cleaning the plates. And if we can clean the plates, what you end up with is you buy less batteries. On average, 2 to 3 years more of life. But the big difference between this one and the ones that you buy at the hardware store or at the auto parts store is we built in a tester that while it's attached to the wall and maintaining your batteries, it tells you how good your battery is. And now all the other ones out there, a lot of them have little green lights and little red lights, and they're supposed to tell you something. They really don't tell you anything. We've designed this to immediately notify you while you're still in your garage that your battery's good or bad. Now, if you just take it by itself, not plugged in the wall, just this by itself, and go to any battery you've got, I can, within 10 seconds, test your battery. I can analyze it. All I've got to do is plug the negative on the negative and the positive on the positive. Here's what it tells me. It shows me the voltage that it's holding, 12.5 volts, which is good. It shows me the charge level, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. This battery's fully charged. So I just tested this battery in a matter of seconds. If I've got it inside of a vehicle already, I can do 2 other tests. I can start the engine, and while I'm cranking, it will measure the voltage that the battery holds under load. And that's the most precise way of telling if a battery's got cold cranking amp still. And then when it starts, I can test the alternator. If I was going to have this on my favorite car, I probably wouldn't use the alligator clips. The alligator clips are mainly for charging up and testing temporarily. If it was a permanent installation, I would use the one that connects to your battery posts on your terminals. You just take the little nuts off, put this on, this plugs into the cable just like this one does, and now you've got a great long-term solution that you can leave on for months and months.
Support brands that support Grassroots Motorsports. Get your chemical solutions from CRC Industries. Visit crcindustries.com to learn more.